In the rolling hills and hollers of the South, there's a vine that creeps into every shadowy, forgotten corner. Kudzu is more than just a plant. It's a metaphor for how things grow wild when left to their own devices. Beauty and chaos not only coexist here, but are also one and the same. The Kudzu Project tries to make sense of it all. The small town struggles, the entangled lives, the deep roots, and the common thread that stitches our communities together. Join us wherever you download podcasts for fresh dispatches from the venerable South with our host, Nick Lucy.
When I set out to start the Kudzu Project podcast, my goal was to create a space where people could share their stories in their own voices and in their own words. What you're about to hear is the personal account of a man named Jeff Sokol, who says he survived the events of September 11th, 2001. The thoughts, memories, and opinions he shares are entirely his own. The purpose of the Kudzu Project is simply to offer a platform for people to tell their stories as they know them, and to give listeners the opportunity to hear those stories, reflect on them, and decide for themselves what to believe. As always, thanks for listening. Jeff Sokol, really good to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate the invitation, Nick.
Yeah, man. You know, full disclosure, I saw a post that you had made on Facebook. I think it was the Hendersonville Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And you alluded to surviving 9/11. And so automatically I was intrigued by the story. I saw that you have a Substack account. How do people find you on Substack if they want to?
It's JD Sokol.
Okay. So just search on Substack for that. I try to do a little research on you. I try to do research on all my guests. You know, some folks have a lot of info about them online. You had very little, which added to the intrigue.
Yeah. So that's really weird because I've been online for a long time. And a few, I guess 2 or 3 months ago, I got a company that got all the stuff off that's, you know, all the things that are addresses and just profiles that you know, scammers use to get your details and whatnot. They've removed like over 3,000 records.
Wow.
In the past 3 months.
Wow. So there's a business that their specialty is.
Yeah, is getting rid of that stuff. And there is actually a lot of stuff about me online. But now it's stuff that is supposed to be there. Yeah. As opposed to the you know, the random things that are out in the marketplace, random things. Right. Matter of fact, one of the things that you might find a little bit amusing, I didn't find it amusing at the time. My wife and I were living in Montana with our family, and I started getting death threats on all my social media, like on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. Like people were hitting me up and talking about pizza, and I'm like, what the heck are these guys talking about? And so I look it up. It turns out, what was the name of that show? Chris Hansen, like To Catch a Predator or something like that.
Yes.
And so hundreds of people mistake me for the Jeff Sokol. That was the guy on there. And I was like, man, this is ridiculous. So I actually reached out and contacted Chris Hansen. I have a cell phone number now. And so I called him, talked to him. I was like, hey, bro, you got to get this off the internet. And he goes, man, It's all ABC. There's nothing I can do about it. And so, yeah.
Well, full disclosure, I found that Jeff Sokol as well when I was looking you up. And,
yeah, sure.
And you know, I put you through AI, through ChatGPT, and even ChatGPT said, I assume you're not talking about the Jeff Sokol who's basically behind bars right now.
Right.
So, yeah. So when you take that away, I saw there was an article written about you back in 2011, I believe it was. I think it was Longmont or somewhere in
Yeah,
Colorado.
it was Longmont Times Call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I could find very little on you, which is making complete sense.
Mm-hmm.
You had it scrubbed and good for you. I mean, thank God that your name isn't tarnished by some other jerk out there.
Sure. So, and I've had that come up multiple times. And so I was like, finally, I just made a video and put it on Instagram. And I think I put one on YouTube too. It showed me reacting to that video from that TV show.
Right.
And they kind of cleared up a lot, I think.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
And then I found some other things about, I think, it sounds like you might be dabbling in investing and things like of that nature.
Yeah. So I teach people how to day trade. That's what I do for a living. And been doing that been teaching it for over a year now. I think we're going on 19, 20 months.
Okay.
That I've been teaching people how to trade from home.
How is that working out? The stock market's going crazy lately.
Yeah. So we trade NASDAQ futures, and basically, whether it goes up or down, we don't care. We have certain things that we look for in the chart that happen on a daily basis. And so when we see these certain things line up in the chart, it's contrary to popular belief, it's not all just supply and demand and all that other stuff. There is a very large algorithm out there that controls trillions of dollars. My belief that it's owned by BlackRock. It's called Aladdin. They have a name for it and have since 1988. And this thing controls trillions of dollars, and it manipulates the movements in the chart at certain times a day. And so I teach my people what to look for and how to look for that and take advantage of it.
Wow. So do you also, in doing your homework for what to invest in and so forth, do you also follow current events and see what's going on in the world? And does that play into it at all?
It does. Yeah. It does to an extent.
Yeah.
Right. So we're looking at things in the chart mostly. We do pay attention to what we call red folder days, like today's one. And the beginning of every month has different red folder days that are going to make the market react in a certain way. And we tend to avoid those because it gets a little more unpredictable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I once heard someone give a little piece of advice. They said, if you ever want to know what to invest in, go to the mall and look at what all the kids are buying. Have you ever done that?
No, I've never done that. No. We trade off the chart. We're trading basically futures. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, that brings me to the point in which I ask you, since I saw it on Facebook and assume you put it out there and you have a Substack on it. Tell me about your experience with 9/11 and what happened.
Okay, so start with a bit of backstory. I'm a third generation oil and gas, right? And at the time 20 years old when that took place. Excuse me. And when I was 16, I think, my father allowed me to stay home from school one morning to watch Yahoo go public. Everybody knew it was going to be a big deal. And when I saw that stock go from very inexpensive to hundreds of dollars per share, I realized that people just made a lot of money. They just made a whole lot of money. And I knew guys that were in it. They got in early and whatnot, that were part of the company and whatnot, that had just gotten very wealthy overnight. And I say overnight very loosely, right? I mean, obviously it took a long time for them to get there. But as soon as they went public, that's when they got rich.
And you're referring to the .com boom and bust.
.com boom, yes.
Eventual
yeah.
bust.
So I want to say this was 1997.
Okay.
And I started getting a very big interest in this. And so I started day trading in college and on E-Trade and whatnot and kind of dabbling here and there. I got the opportunity while I was in college to go to move with one of my best friends who had just graduated and to move up to New York. And he was working the World Trade Center as a stockbroker. And I was like, man, this is going to be cool, And so I'm watching all the stockbroker movies, Wall Street and Boiler Room, and it was probably not what I should be watching, right? Because none of these are great examples.
Are they accurate, though?
Yeah, oddly enough. And so then I get up there, I'm in the energy, and doing the whole thing. I'm getting my Series 7 license. And one Tuesday morning, just Bluebird Day, right? We're all up there. And our friend Kent runs out of his office.
So you're in the World Trade Center.
In the World Trade Center
at this point.
Yes, sir. And at this point, I'm in the World Trade Center, and we're just a normal Tuesday, right? Got my cappuccino, everything that's in the story. It was pretty accurate. I just changed the name, right? And so from there, regular Tuesday morning, Kent runs out of his office, and he says, "Everybody get the hell out." And so I look out of my window, and a copy machine flies past my window on fire. And
which tower is this?
We're in the South Tower, on the 29th floor of the South Tower.
Okay.
Copy machine flies past the window on fire, and I just leave everything at my desk.
That's usually a bad sign. When
Oh man, yeah. I didn't know, especially since the day before we were talking about 1993 and all that stuff that happened there in the World Trade Center at that time. Excuse me. And so I leave everything. I leave everything except my jacket, and we start going down the stairs. And by the time we got down to the bottom, it has slowed to a crawl because everybody for the 30 floors below me are trying to come out.
So it had just hit
the North Tower. It had just hit the North Tower. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The South Tower had not been hit yet, so it just hit the North Tower, and we don't know what's been hit. Okay, so we just know that something bad happened, and we heard this boom, and we're getting out. So when we get down to the bottom, there was a plaza there called Liberty Plaza, right in between the two towers, and there was a stage there, but the whole plaza was covered in papers, papers from Cantor Fitzgerald, and we looked up, we saw this thing smoking, and it took us a while to get down, and I turn around and our entire firm is gone. It's just me and Jimmy standing there, and so whenever we start walking across the street, and there's a Burger King across the street. And so we start walking across the street like, okay, we got to get out of here. Something's not right. And that's when the second plane hit. And we looked up, and there was a big fireball up above our heads. And concrete and steel start coming down and raining down. And we ducked underneath this scaffold. And if you've ever been to New York, there's scaffolding everywhere.
Sure. Especially
nowadays. It didn't used to be that much of it, but I guess today there's a lot. That scaffold was not there the day before. And we ducked underneath that scaffold, and we go into Burger King, and all these people are funneling into Burger King trying to get down those, like going into the basement. And as I'm walking through the kitchen, there's a woman on the kitchen floor having a baby, like she's in labor, man. I'm 20, you know what I mean? I wasn't thinking about this. And I went and Jimmy looks at me. I was like, dude, we got to get out of here. And Jimmy's really wiry guy. And so he slips out, grabs me, and like pulls me past the crowd to get out of the kitchen. And we go to, once we get outside, my mind was literally not prepared for what I saw. I mean, I was wearing a nice suit, nice shoes, and then the next thing I know, I'm looking around and there's dead people in the street, lots of dead people. And there were people that have, one of the steel girders from the side of the building was in the windshield of a police van, and there were two cops sitting in there. It was a horrible scene. People were walking around that had been hit, blood gushing out of their head. I mean, it was nightmarish, quite frankly. And And I just kind of start zoning out, you know, and Jimmy slaps me.
Probably in shock.
Yeah. And I'd been in tough situations before, hunting, near-death things had happened and whatnot. But to see that right before me instantly, just there was no preparation for it.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy slaps me and he's like, hey, dude, snap out of it, right? He was supposed to meet his dad for lunch at Killarney's Rose. So we ran to Killarney's Rose. We ran down Wall Street and made our way down over toward Water, I think it is, in Pearl. And we went to Killarney's Rose. Once we got there, you could see on the television all the propaganda that was taking place about what happened or didn't happen or whatever the case was. And what we see was the North Tower began to fall. And so it fell down, and I was on the phone with my mom by the payphone, and as soon as I hung up with her, this thing, I look back at the screen, and the tower's falling, and I see people running down the street, and I open the door, and I see a woman running past, and I grabbed her and I pulled her inside. And then all of a sudden this dust cloud just passes us up, right? And that weather stripping that's around the door protected us from all that stuff coming inside. Well, shortly thereafter, sorry, not the North Tower fell, the South Tower fell first. So the South Tower is the one that fell first. And then shortly thereafter, the North Tower fell, and then it just got black outside. You know, you can't see anything.
How far are you from the World Trade Center at this point? How far was Killarney Rose from?
Killarney Rose, I don't know, half a mile.
Okay.
As a crow flies.
Yeah.
And so we're stuck there until about 12:30, and when the sky started to clear up a little bit, the wind kind of moved a lot of the dust out of the way. Jimmy had to get back to Brooklyn. Nothing's open. Trains are obviously not operational.
Cell phones were down.
Cell phones weren't working. I didn't have mine anyway. That it was on my desk, and so Jimmy just points me in the right direction. Says, "Hey, look, go over here. There's one train operating. It's F train, goes up to like 51st, 53rd. I don't remember which. And just get on that. It'll take you as far as you can north. Then you're gonna have to hoof it back up to your apartment." And that's what I did. So I got on the train, and the weirdest thing happened as soon as I got on the train. First of all, there's nobody on it, okay, which was weird in New York. Just that alone was just eerie. But I'm on the train, and I'm feeling sorry for myself, and then wondering what just happened. Like, I'm trying to take all this in, you know? And then two people come on. And these people broke my entire worldview instantly. And I'm from, like I said, I'm from South Louisiana, oil and gas. I mean, these people could not have been more opposite from me. And it was a white woman and a black man. She had dreadlocks. He had dreadlocks. She smells like weed and patchouli. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And so this is just not the kind of crowd that I hung out with.
Yeah.
And the guy sits on my right side. The woman sits on my left side. And they both just leaned in and hugged me. They didn't say anything. It's like they knew. And I guess they saw the dust on my shoes or whatever. And they only went to the next stop. Like, nobody gets on a train in New York just to make it 5 blocks. You know, you walk, right? And on the next stop, they got up, the woman kissed me on the cheek, the man pats me on the shoulder, and they walked off. Then as the train pulls off, I look back on the dock to see they were gone. They were just gone. It's not like they walked up the stairs. They didn't have time for that. It's just, they just weren't there anymore. And I found this to be very strange. And then when I got up out of the subway, let's say it was 53rd, I walk over to 3rd Avenue and I start heading north. And I wanted to stop and use the phone somewhere to let my mom know that I was headed back to my apartment where my roommate was. And so I decided to stop in Bloomingdale's. I'm like, certainly they have a phone. It's open. Then this guy looks at me like I'm crazy. He looks at me. I've told him I'd like to use the phone if at all possible. And he wouldn't let me in Bloomingdale's because my shoes were dirty. You believe that?
Wow.
And so I...
Were you like, sir, have you seen what just happened?
I didn't have the energy. Yeah. Like I just didn't have the energy to argue with him. Ordinarily I would have, but I just didn't have the energy to argue with him. He had a British accent and everything. I was like, I just don't have time for this. So I'm just going to keep walking. And so I lived up on 96th. And so up on 96th in Lexington. And so I just continued walking up. And then I got to my apartment and everybody was there. And so Kent was there and he opened the door. I was automatically mad at him because he'd been there all day, you know. He was smarter than I was, and he went out to the West Side Highway, flagged the guy down, and he caught a ride.
Wow.
You know, so yeah. So essentially, that's what took place.
Wow. So okay, take us back to the moment that so you're in the South Tower. The plane crashed into the North Tower. You saw the copier fall. Yeah. Did you hear the explosion? Did you hear?
I did. I heard it. What to me sounded like thunder. And I thought that was very strange because there's no clouds outside. Yeah. There are no clouds outside. It was just a bluebird day. It was a beautiful day.
Yeah, apparently it had been raining the day before or a couple days before, and it had broken, and that Tuesday morning was just gorgeous in New York. Yeah, and the weather was cool. It was in the 70s. You know, I mean, you couldn't ask for a prettier day in New York. Yeah. And so your buddy, Jimmy, he had the foresight to see a burning copier fall from the North Tower and say, it's time to get out of here.
No, that was Kent. So okay. Yeah. So it was Kent that he saw everything else fall from his office. And that's when he yelled at everybody else to get out. And
you were outside when the second plane hit. You were outside the building.
I was underneath it.
So you literally saw the plane.
I didn't see the plane.
Okay. But you
didn't see a plane at all.
You heard it. You saw the fireball.
It sounded like a vacuum. And it sounded like that is what it sounded like. And I didn't see a plane. I didn't talk to anybody that saw a plane. And so I just took everybody's word for it that's what happened. So people who weren't there, you know, they often say, the first plane hits, you think it might be an accident. The second plane hits, you know we're under attack. Did you feel like we were under attack? 100%. Yeah, especially when we were running down Wall Street. I was like, Jimmy, why are we going down Wall Street? You know, if they hit the Trade Center, the next thing they're going to hit is the stock exchange. So like, why are we in front of this thing? And so we just kept running past it because I thought if they were shooting missiles or whatever the case was, that's next. You know. Wow. So you're in the Burger King across the street, and are you seeing stuff rain down on the street? Not until we got out. Yeah. So we saw stuff was starting to rain down as we were running into the Burger King. It was when we got out that we saw all the stuff in the streets, all the rubble and whatnot. Yeah. You know, everybody that got hurt. Would you like to touch on, you had mentioned, you used the word propaganda when you said what was unfolding and how you saw it on the TV. What do you feel that was or might have been? That's a touchy subject. Yeah. What do I feel it might have been? If you don't feel comfortable talking about it. It's not that I don't feel comfortable. It's just that whenever it's easy to get labeled, right? And at the end of the day, I feel that a lot of the things that they put out that is on the news is propaganda. Yeah. And they want you to, it's been like this for decades. But I didn't see a plane hit. And a building fell down that wasn't even hit.
Down on Building 7.
Yes. Yeah. Building 7 fell down and that wasn't even hurt. Right. It was evacuated and it fell straight down. And I've had conversations with demolition experts and whatnot that used to work closely with Navy SEALs and have spent time in that industry overseas and in a hostile territory. And they were convinced that that to some extent this was planned. And, or to a large extent this was planned. And so I don't have any proof of that. I tend not to focus on it, but it certainly seemed to be propaganda years later to me that, and look, I denied that for years. To me, I did not want to believe that such a thing could take place. But the more I looked into it, the more it became, I started to believe that I was wrong about that, So I think that all the stuff that they put on there, it was already predetermined what they were going to put.
When you said you didn't see the plane, what do you think it might have been, or do you think it was an explosion, a bomb of some sort? What do you think it was? To people who said, I was watching live TV and I saw the planes crash into the World Trade Center, what do you tell them when they say, well, I saw it with my own eyes?
I said the same thing for years until technology's gotten better and we could look at that and see that building was made so strong. That building was made to withstand these things. There are 45-degree cuts on steel beams. I mean, that shears. And so what was it? I don't know what they put in there, if anything. But I know this much, that planes aren't built to withstand that kind of thing. Those buildings were built to withstand it. And the fact that it fell straight down was very suspect to me. And then if you slow it down enough, you can see explosions going on underneath each floor. And it just started to crumble in that way.
When you say it may have been planned, are you saying, because I know there's conventional wisdom says that 19 hijackers with the help of Al-Qaeda planned the attack, and that it was obviously a plan that was a long time in the making. Mm-hmm. I have heard stories about the fact that our government may have known that those hijackers were in this country, preparing for this plan and so forth. And perhaps some in the government let it unfold. Is that what you're thinking, or are you thinking that it was fabricated by the U.S. government?
Blaming the government for it as a whole is probably a stretch.
Yeah.
I think that, and I also think it's a stretch that you would find an unburned passport from one of these guys in the middle of all that rubble, right? They just happen to find a passport. There's other documentaries out there that go into this in detail, and I believe in one of those documentaries it said that the guy that owned the World Trade Center took out a big insurance policy just a month before that, and all these other things, right? Which could be just routine business. So I don't want to read too much into all of the other things that add up. But to me, a lot of times, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, I'm going to call it a duck. And do I believe that they have scapegoats? Yeah, of course they would. Why wouldn't they? But then again, look, I don't have any proof of anything I'm saying. It's just that when I try to put two and two together, try to add things up, it doesn't add up. I'm a very practical guy, and I look at what adds up and what doesn't. And if it doesn't make sense to me, it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm not blaming any one group or person in particular. It's just it seems contrived, and by more people than Afghanis or Saudis, right? And so it seems, and also these buildings were they were made to withstand hits like this. They were plenty strong enough to take a plane hit. Planes have wrecked into buildings before and they don't fall down.
When I set out to do this podcast, I told myself that I would give people a voice for the stories that they had to tell, and I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to criticize. I myself don't know what happened in 9/11. I know it's a great tragedy. I watched it unfold on a tiny television screen from my boss's office when I lived in Savannah, and I saw it unfold, and it was obviously. It's one of those, where were you when JFK was shot? Where were you when Pearl Harbor happened? It was that of our generation, clearly. And it was such a chaotic, sad, tragic thing. It left a mark on so many people. There's no doubt about it. Some people have said that everyone in the United States back in, I think it might have been in the early 2000s or mid 2000s, one of every 10 knew someone that either perished in 9/11 or was involved in it. Have you met up with any other World Trade Center survivors to talk about your stories?
No, I mean, I didn't go back to New York until September of 22, I think. So I mean, just my friend Kent, and we still talk every once in a while, but no, I haven't looked out for it or anything like that.
Yeah. How do you feel you were personally impacted by this event that unfolded?
Personally,
how did it change your life?
Well, I was a couple of big ways, I guess. I didn't sleep very well for like 2 years after that. And that took a toll emotionally and in some other ways. And so it spiritually, it took there was, major activity there, and it just kind of felt difficult to stay on track for a couple of years, and it wasn't until 2004, I guess, when I moved to Farmington, New Mexico, in the Durango area, and that I started to regain some sense of actual normalcy, right? And just kind of buried my head in oil and gas work and horses, and just found solace in the mountains, and just enjoyed myself from there. And then I ended up meeting my wife in 2007 in Mexico, and then married her, and she's an extraordinary woman, and it has definitely made me more cautious. I think I don't take things for granted that I used to take for granted. I'm much more prepared in doing things in life, and when I'm going places, like I've always got 2 weeks worth of food in my truck, firearm, as necessary, and I'm just always prepared to be out there. And look, I've lived for a week or more at a time in the mountains, and so being able to fend for myself comes pretty naturally to me. And I've been hunting and fishing my entire life. Being able to take care of myself out in the woods, out in the mountains is easy for me. But now I've got 4 kids and a wife that I have to take care of, right? So I need to make sure that everything that we're doing, that I'm always triple checked and triple prepared for all contingencies as much as I can handle.
Espousing the thoughts that you have about what may or may not have happened on that Tuesday morning, how has that affected your view of not only the world we live in, but the country we live in?
I don't blame the country. I don't blame the world. The world is fallen. The world is what it is. I'm a Christian, and I believe that the world is in a constant state of degradation because the world is fallen. We have a way out, but at the same time, these things happen because the world is fallen. I don't blame Islamic terrorism for it. I don't blame people for it as per their own vices and greed, whatever may have caused it, lust for power, whatever that may be, that's on them. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm more cynical. I don't believe anything that they say. You know, I don't, as much as I might like one candidate versus another, I'm not going to put all 10 of my toes on the line for any of them. You know, I mean, Trump might turn out to be the Antichrist. I don't think so, but I'm not going to make that bet. You know, it's a part of the world that we live in, and none of us are getting out of here alive. That's how risky the whole thing is. So you might as well take risks. You might as well enjoy where you are. Do the best that you can. Treat people the best way that you can. And from there, you're going to be taken care of no matter what. So if you do what you're supposed to do, and yes, bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people. There are no absolutes, but you can choose. You get to choose on how you do, on the things that you do, and how you live your life. And whether that's going to be in peace, whether it's going to be in war, or whether it's going to be in happiness. You make that for yourself. You know.
Did you consider yourself a Christian in 2001, or have you?
I grew up in Southern Baptist Church, and I went to Catholic schools my whole life, but the answer is no. I didn't. I went and studied world religion after 2001 because I had some very spiritual, weird things happening to me. And I went all over the place studying metaphysical sciences from the University of Metaphysical Sciences. I owned the entire spirituality section from Barnes & Noble. It was in my library, read all that. I was big into all these ideas outside of Christianity. I blamed God to such an extent that I didn't think he was the answer. That all changed in 2013 when I was in Nigeria. I was working for my dad in oil and gas. And I had I don't know if you're familiar with Paul was on the road to Damascus and in the Bible, and he was persecuting Christians. And Jesus shows up in front of him, knocks him off his horse. And he says, "Who are you?" He says, "I am Jesus, whom you persecute." And he blinded him. And he told him to go to a street called Straight, and he'd send somebody there whenever he needed him. And so, and he did. He sent him in Ananias. That baptized him. And the blindness fell off his eyes as if they had been scales. They had scales on his eyes. They fell off. And then Paul went and And he went to Mount Sinai and spoke with Jesus there. Jesus gave him his mission, told him everything that he needed to know, and then he went on to go write most of the New Testament. And so I call this my Damascus Road experience, because the Lord showed up for me in that way. He was there, he hugged me and knocked me down and basically purged me right there. And every sin, everything that I did that was wrong, that hurt other people, and I was purged from me at that moment, and I could feel it. I felt the pain that I caused them. I felt it physically. And I'm on the ground. And thank God my help wasn't even, it was a Sunday, so my help wasn't there. Nigeria, everybody has like we have cooks and butlers and whatnot. And so my help wasn't there that day. They had the day off. And so I had this experience with the Lord then and there. And I completely changed. It was in 2013. I'd already been married for years. And it was a very, very authentic experience. And I became a brand new person. The Bible says that you get a new heart, and that's exactly what happened to me. I just became a completely different human. All these vices that I had beforehand that were controlling me, and I didn't even know that they were there, or that they had the grip that they did, were gone. You know, and I had one mission, and that was to serve him in the way that he asked for. And that's what I've been trying to do ever since. You know, sometimes often I fail, but that's how I raise my kids. And so yeah, that's what happened at that point.
As an aside, I understand that there are a lot of Christians being persecuted in Nigeria right now. There's been some mass killings. Yeah. So who are those people that boarded your train and consoled you?
You know what's funny is that I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I don't remember, it might have been on Joe Rogan, but there was this guy talking about a white woman and a black man that helped him out on a train in New York. And tall black guys, I mean, he described these people to a T, to the people that I met. And they were on for one stop and they got off. And that was like 2 weeks ago. I heard that.
Wow.
And who were they? I would have to say anybody that is a messenger of God could be considered an angel. And at that moment, I needed those hugs and that attention and that love that I got from those people that I've never met before. They're complete polar opposites from everything I ever thought I knew. To open up my heart, to break down barriers and let that in. And so, yeah, angels, I guess. You know, that's the only way I can explain that they weren't on the dock whenever I was pulling away.
Wow.
You know, and I'd always wondered about that. And then a couple of weeks ago when I heard this from this other guy, at that point I was like, wow, that kind of puts that final nail in the coffin for me as far as that's concerned. That kind of solidified it. I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one to have that experience in New York with these guys.
Western North Carolina is about as far away from New York City and Montana and New Mexico as you can get. But do you find peace here?
No. I like the area. I grew up in the South. I like the area. I think it's beautiful here. It's a little too crowded for me. You know, I really like, but there's things to do here. You know, we like horses and all the pretty things and pretty fall we have going on right now. But no, it's a little crowded for my taste.
Yeah.
It's a little crowded. I like being out in the middle of nowhere in Montana, you know, outside of Kalispell or Whitefish.
Yeah. Beautiful country.
Yeah, it is.
Well, Jeff Sokol, I want to thank you for having the courage to come on and tell your story. And I hope you do find peace.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Yeah. And it's not that I don't have peace. It's just that it's when you have to think about things, you don't know who all your neighbors are or what their inclinations are. And you have to think about where these, how to protect your family in all these different scenarios. You can take a lot of those scenarios away by being on lane outside of Kalispell, Montana.
You can see them coming.
You can see them coming, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the invitation.
Yeah. I guess all things in life require faith of some sort.
Sure.
Whether or not they're for God or for their fellow man or whatever, have to rely on faith. And thank you for having faith in me to come on the show.
Of course.
So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yep.
The Kudzu Project is made possible by the Lucy Agency, helping businesses across the South grow deep roots and stand out. Based in Hendersonville, North Carolina, this full-service marketing firm builds handcrafted websites, eye-catching logos, and social media that pops for businesses and organizations. Because if your story's worth telling, it's worth telling right. Learn more at lucyagency.com. That's LUCEY agency.com.
Everyone has a story. And at the Kudzu Project, we want to hear yours. Go to kudzuproject.com and fill out our story submission form. You can write your story for us to read on the podcast, request to be interviewed, or even nominate someone else whose story deserves to be told. The Kudzu Project is all about capturing the voices and spirit of our community, and your story could be the next one we share. Visit kudzuproject.com and tell your story today.